What is the Third Amendment? You have probably already heard a lot about the First and Second Amendments, but I am guessing that you are not quite sure about the Third Amendment. Neither was I. Well, the Third Amendment to the Constitution prevents the government from allowing the military from taking over private homes in order to provide housing for soldiers. It reads, "No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law." This amendment was a direct response to laws known as Quartering Acts, which were passed by the British government before and during the Revolutionary War. Quartering is a term that means housing. The first Quartering Act, passed in 1769, forced colonists to pay for the British soldiers who were sent to protect the colonies. The law also said that British troops could stay in stables, barns, and inns without having to pay their owners.
Hello.
The second Quartering Act, passed in 1774, went even further. It stated that the colonists had to allow British soldiers to live in their homes. Homeowners had to give these soldiers a place to sleep and even had to feed them too.
Yeah!
The colonists saw this as a violation of privacy. The Quartering Act was one of the many events that marched the colonists towards war with the British. The Founding Fathers wanted to prevent this from happening in the future. The Third Amendment to the Constitution means that the U.S. government and its military cannot force a private citizen to house soldiers. This idea was tested during the Civil War. However, because of the amendment, soldiers could ask a homeowner for a place to stay, but they could not demand it. With the amendment, soldiers are allowed to occupy private property for a short time only during times of war. During times of peace, however, this amendment makes it clear that the individual property owner's rights are more important than the government or military's rights. The only time a big Third Amendment case went all the way to the Supreme Court was in 1982. That was when the case of Engblom versus Carey was filed. At the time, prison guards were on strike in the state of New York, and the National Guard had been called in to keep order at a prison. 2 prison guards were forced from their home to make room for the National Guardsmen. The home was on prison grounds and was owned by the prison, not the guards. At first, the guards lost their case because the home they lived in was on prison grounds and was actually owned by the prison. However, the guards won their case on appeal at the Second Circuit Court. This court believed that the guards had a right to call the prison home their own because they were the current occupants and had control of the property. Although this amendment is not called upon often during modern times, it has also come to represent the idea that the U.S. government cannot enter private property without agreement from the owner. Let's review what we learned. Question 1. What were the laws passed by the British government requiring colonists to house British soldiers called? A. Housing Acts. B. Redcoat Act. C. Quartering Acts. D. Sleep Acts. The correct answer is C. Those laws were known as Quartering Acts. Here's question 2. During which war was the Third Amendment tested? A. Civil War. B. World War I. C. Iraq War. D. None of the above. If you answered A, you know that it was tested during the Civil War. Question 3. In what year did the Third Amendment case, Engblom versus Carey, go to the Supreme Court? A. 1892. B. 1902. C. 1976. D. 1982. The correct answer is D. Engblom versus Carey went to the Supreme Court in 1982.